Right now, Black Knight is showcasing a 53% win rate, 5% of the meta share, and a cube rate of about 2 cubes, right? So, sorry, 0.02 cubes. Not 2 cubes, that'd be absolutely insane, right? So it's doing okay, but when you compare that to Eliath had a 56% win rate, 60% meta share, and almost triple the cube rate. So Eliath just straight up, I mean, it's a game winner. Black Knight's not a game winner. It's a game retreater. People see that they just got their Black Knight Infinite discard. I'm gone. Enjoy your 1 cube. And I think that really holds it down.
So when I was looking at everything for the stats, because I pulled up the stats too, right? I pulled up like the stats of cards that we know are good, and then I looked at other stats. Here's the thing, and I pulled up actually lower stats. I had 47% win rate from negative 0.14 cube gain. But Ghost Rider has a 45% win rate, right? With negative cube gain as well. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's a kind of discard and toxic cards. I understand them having not the best win rates because they're ride or die decks, right? They're in hella, they're in these decks that are hoping for the pop up. Black Knight though, dude, it feels like he works in the decks as a decent flow, but he does feel a little bit wonky. He's definitely not Series 5 worthy. But I like him. I think he's not a must-have card. I would actually bump him up. I put him at a 2-star, probably a 2.5. Probably bump him up a whole 0.5, depending on it. And it really comes down to this, dude. Hella. It comes down to Hella. Hella right now is in such an insane spot, bud. How do you feel about Hella at the moment?
I think Hella's interesting because, like, it's kind of messing up Black Knight in a mirror match because, Black Knight won't run Silver Samurai. But the meta-based Hella deck right now, like this Hella Casino-based deck, is running Silver Samurai. You have Black Knight on the board. Samurai discards some BS card out of your hand. It's like, oh, cool, I got a 4/3 Ebony Blade. This feels great. You know what I mean? Like, so that's been happening. So I've seen that happen. But ultimately, like, oh man, I don't know how to say this. I think one of the mistakes being made was that, like, Black Knight was being forced into traditional discard style decks. It doesn't really perform there. I think it needs a whole different approach to discard. And I think that, like, just slamming it into a Hella deck kind of made it feel awkward. I don't know what your experience was.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It feels like I can get the dedicated discard a lot easier than I thought, right? So I've been running him in like a Lockjaw Hella deck, and then I have like a dependable, more base list of an APOC, and you do the Dracula and all that stuff. Ghost Rider, you know what it is, dude? I feel like I'm not playing the Ebony Blade all that much. Is the main cheese of it. And if I end up getting the 20 power Infinite or 20 power Blade, at that point the opponent retreats. But it feels like an easy win. It's a win more card in a lot of ways, but it feels like it does coincide nicely with turns, and it's just easy to get the proc on the death of the Giganto. It's interesting. I think he does work in the spots that he does. Overall, I can never suggest people probably to get him because there's just other ways to run the deck and run discard.
I don't feel like Black Knight is a great card. I think that there will be decks eventually that work well with him, but it just, my experience was like this, just the way you really rank up, the way you really like perform is by catching and subverting your opponent's expectations, catching them by surprise. And that's why, like, Hella will often do that. Like, you have this losing board state and your opponent will be like, there's no way they can beat me, right? And then Hella just goes boom, and then everything drops down. And like with this card, it's just so obvious, right? Like, there's nothing that you can do. There's no Invisible Woman play to like try to hide what you're doing. There's no Invisible Woman Patriot Ultron. There's none of that stuff. It's just, well, you saw that I have the 420 blade. See you later, I guess.
He feels just like Phoenix Force in the first iteration because, like, with her, it was the same thing. Like, you're not running multiple man with Carnage in any other deck. And when that happens, most of the time, if you're snapping on that, a good opponent's going to know, like, okay, they got the cheese. They got the nut, as Snapster says. So I do agree there. You'd be surprised on the greed of players, right? Like, that does happen. But you can't stay under the radar with him. And that's what kind of sucks the most because it just displays it. You know what's happening. And that's probably his biggest deficit. And the worst part is we don't have any discard options coming out in the next 2 months either. There's no new sizzle coming up for discard, right? We have a while, and I think it's an archetype they have to be careful with. So overall, Black Knight, he was a card. He was a card.
He's okay. The one thing I will say though is that it made me play Ghost Rider, and
Yeah.
Ghost Rider saw no play. There was a moment where like with like the Black Cat, like he was like, okay, this seems interesting. Play some Ghost Rider, Black Cat, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like this is another example of like kind of like buffing by addition, where you get an additional synergy. Ghost Rider itself wasn't changed and go to a 4-4 or a 4-5 or whatever. It didn't get buffed itself, but now it's seeing additional play because of the effect of the the Black Knight, right? With the Ebony Blade. And like it has reach, like when you have like Death's Domain and stuff like that, or Luke's Bar, like Ghost Rider's valuable. It has that Jubilee style effect, right? So it kind of made me feel like Ghost Rider had some synergistic elements there, and it felt like an overall buff to have another synergistic card.
Which is why I liked him in the Hello Lockjaw deck, because Ghost Rider, you can play into that. He slams the card, swaps out. You can get Ghost Rider back again. If you need to use Black Knight as a token card, fantastic. You just throw him in there. You can get out a bigger, better card. That's where he felt like he worked the best for me. But at that point, it's like, because you're getting use out of him no matter what. I know Dracula Dump had a little bit of love, but also that was just being played in a good, just a good cards list as well. And that's kind of where we thought he was going to be as a whole. But dude, you know what it made me realize too? And we ranked the 1-cost cards last, I think, Snapchat. Blade's a great card. Blade, they perfected this card, man. I love Blade when I'm playing discard now.
It's definitely good. It's definitely like a better card than it was prior. And what I like about it too, though, and it can be frustrating, but when you have Blade in your hand, it's very dependent on what you top deck, right? Because it always every top deck goes to the right side. You're like, come on, top deck that Infinite, damn it! Like, come on, let's go. But like, there's also the other side to it. It's like there's going to be times where you're playing the Black Knight discard where you don't have Black Knight, and you're holding Blade, and that right card is your Infinite, or it is your Magneto, or your Apoc, or whatever. And you're like, well, not Apoc, you can always discard Apoc. But let's say it's like the Infinite. You're like, well, I don't have my Ghost Rider yet. I don't have my Black Knight. The decision making, I think this is where the high skill part comes in. I think you discard it anyway and hope you draw into your Ghost Rider. Like you kind of have to just playing your deck.
Yep.
And I think the Blade lets you do that. So I do think that the change to Blade was really prudent in advance of Black Knight's release.
Well, let's go ahead and do it. We did it with Nico. We're going to do it again for our live viewers, and we're going to tell you guys that are listening the same thing. You guys can go ahead and type in exclamation point and a number. What do you rank the Black Knight yourself? 1 through 10, 10 being the best, 1 being just trash, worthless. How good is the Black Knight? Type exclamation point and a number for you guys listening. We'll keep you up to date here. Nico, for what it's worth, pretty much ended at a 666, which is kind of funny for Nico being a witch and all. But right now, ooh, it's not looking good. Is this what you expected?
It's actually higher than I expected. Like for those that are listening, we're hovering around the 3.5 range, which is honestly higher than I expected. I wouldn't have expected higher than 3.
Yeah.
This is 3 out of 10 though. We're doing stars, so like we have to do the math here, right? Like it's not quite like the same thing. Maybe we need to adjust our methodology for ranking here.
I mean, 5, right, is a 2.5 star. Is the easiest way to look at it, right? It's halfway.
I guess that's true, Cozy.
So
good
yeah,
math,
buddy. Yeah. You know, I'm not a teacher, Alex. I don't educate our youth of today or tomorrow, but I got a little something under my belt. But no, dude. 4 is what it's about at right now. We'll leave it up for a little bit longer. But overall, it's kind of like what we saw from October. You had Man-Thing that was with Toxic, who, funny enough, people crapped on the card. Man-Thing now is in one of the best performing decks. Like, I think Man-Thing has really evolved as a card. Black Knight, a little bit more niche. We always kind of thought he was going to be much nicher than something like Man-Thing, even though he's for Toxic. Discard is just a closed-off archetype for the most part, right? Even something like X23 can't find her way into it as well. So, 420. Which is great.
Yeah,
is where Black
basically
Knight
2 stars.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta get rid of it now, right? I gotta just leave it at 420. There you go. 420 is the final ranking for Black Knight, about 2 stars, and that's what we expected overall. So Black Knight interview, kind of meh, but you know, we'll see what happens to him. Alex, we do favorite cards at every cost, and now we're moving on to worst cards at every cost. Did you find this difficult?
Nope. I found this very easy. There are some absolutely trash tier cards in Marvel Snap that need to be adjusted, and some that have been adjusted, and they're still absolute refuse. So yeah, like if you want to talk about like horse manure cards, I'm ready for it.
Okay, so here's the deal. Every cost I went into, I was like, there's one that just stands out so obvious, and then there's one that like we could also throw up. So I think both of us have maybe 1 or 2 options, and I'm not gonna be shocked if they coincide the same. The later you get through the cost, Alex, though, it's interesting how there's only a couple of outliers. Did you notice that?
Yeah, like there's a few, like there was very obvious ones and twos. And I think there's I think there's still some obvious ones. I don't know, man. You actually had a hard time picking later ones. I went through this list, so I was like, man, this card sucks. This card's garbage. I was angry picking my cards. Like, man, this card's such crap. I'm getting worked up thinking about it right now. Did you have a hard time picking a 5? Come on, Cozy. You just know.
I think I missaid what I was trying to get out there. There are all great 5-cost cards, and there was one really bad one. So there's like one clear outlier.
Yes.
In those costs. But anyway, let's go to the 1 cost. So what is the worst card in the 1 cost slot for you?
The obvious one is going to be Angel, right? Like that's the obvious one. But I have another one I want to talk about. Do we agree Angel's probably the absolute worst?
I mean, it's one or the other. I mean, I think 1 cost was the least sexy thing to talk about because there's just 2. What's your other one?
My other one's Uatu. I'm so pissed off about what they like. Listen, I want to tell you something. I've been playing. No. Quicksilver is better than Angel. Okay, Quicksilver is better than Angel because at least it has a role to play. At least Quicksilver is like for the new player experience. At least it has a damn role. Agatha, whatever you want. Quicksilver makes sense. Also, if you want your opponent to snap on you turn 1, play Quicksilver. But Uatu got changed. I played a ton of Uatu during the stream. I was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm putting Uatu in decks. And yes, on occasion, it felt good to see the right location. Still felt horrible. I'm like, why is this not a 1/2? Like, it's just a card I'd never wanted to play. And also because I don't want the opponent in Conquest to know I have Uatu in my hand. So, but like, it just felt so bad. I was so upset. Like, I know Uatu's probably not the worst, but it feels the worst right now because, like, it got changed and it still sucks. And it just makes me so upset, Cozy. It makes me so upset. Why did they have to do that to Uatu? It's better than it was before, sure, but it still just sucks. Why can't we just give Uatu a little bit more love? If you're going to be 1/1, show me all the damn locations. If Uatu's broken, just nerf it after, please. For the love of God, give us Uatu the Watcher. Let him watch something. How can he not watch the middle location? I'm so upset.
Coming at the Snapchat episode 52, the full subject is just all about Uatu. I see all, but only the right side. It's like we're comparing, like, it's like we're all at the bottom of, like, there's 32 teams in the NFL. We're the bottom 3 teams. We're like, no, you suck. These 3 suck. They all suck together. And they're not great. I understand, Alex, I'm going to allow you to collect yourself for a second. Anything else?
Thank you.
Anything else on him? Any other?
On Uatu?
Yeah. Tell it to him. Tell it to him.
just showed up that very, look at how awful it is.
I had to go with that one.
Is that the chibi? Get out of here with these variants,
I could get demonetized. We just lost, half the viewers. Uatu, okay, Quicksilver. This, again, 1 cost wasn't as tough. 2 cost, though, is interesting because when I do something like the Wheel of Snap, I'm like, all right, there's so many good 2 costs, and then there's, like, an obvious couple bad choices or ones that don't synergize. I'm going to kick us off because I think we have now the worst card in Snap. After Mobius being as popular as he is, dare I say, is Baron Mordo the worst card in Marvel Snap now that Mobius exists?
That's exactly the one that I had listed first. It's just, like, Triple M, it's literally a card that makes no sense.
He's horrible. He's legit
no sense.
Terrible. I can't imagine that this isn't a card. Like, I can damn well say I don't think I've ever had a YouTube video ever with him in the list, even Ronin.
I've played him in Ronin before, but I got to tell you, I was reaching. I was emotional. I tried to get him in there. It just sucked. He's on my board. I have a Funko Pop of him.
Of Baron. He's definitely the worst. What would be your second, though? Because I think this is where it gets cheeky. What's your second worst?
Well, I think the second worst has to be Carnage. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm just Cozy's getting worked on now. Cozy's upset. No, it's Adam Warlock for me. Like, I went with Warlock because, like, even with, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy, like, season, he just felt terrible. Never got played. It's just, I get his effect is strong, but he could be just a dead draw, a dead 2 play. Like, it's just, especially with Nico coming out, like, Adam Warlock, what's the point? I don't see a point of playing him. And, like, there was a moment where you played him with Bast, and that can feel nice, but outside of that, like, this card sucks.
Yeah, man. Now that Nico draws 2 cards and, like, what did we say? Like, forever ago, can we get a 2/1, Adam? That way, if you play him on a location, at least you get that initial draw. Like, that, I feel like the data speaks for itself. I think it's clear as day, like, Adam's just not a good card at this point. And I understand they need to be careful with draw, but to me, there is a close race for the second worst, like Colossus, but he has his uses, I guess. But I have a question, and I don't know if this is the worst, but in my opinion, it's the most, like, Why? Mantis had one thing going for her, and that was, and I don't know if this is like, whatever. I think she's at least the bottom 5. She had the one thing going that she was a 1 cost card that could get you a new card. Why am I playing this card? Why am I playing this card?
You're not playing this card. Like, that's the answer. You're just not playing this card. Like, why are you asking why you're playing this card? You know the answer. You're just not.
Ass. Yeah, it just seems like ass. I don't know. I feel like I don't, but I can understand Cable maybe going up. Whatever. Mantis is like, you made her, I think she has 0 purpose behind her now, but I would agree Adam Warlock would be close behind. And then after that, it's okay. I think a lot of these are fine. You know, they do well.
Yeah, like they do though. Like every 2 pretty much plays a role except the ones we're talking about. And like we've talked about Ronin getting reworked in the past, right? Master Mold. Master Mold's the other one that feels pretty poo-poo, but
yeah,
that's a whole other conversation for another day. That needs a whole rework.
Listen, let's talk 3 costs, because moving forward, I think you look at the cost as a whole and you're like, wow, 96% of these are great cards. These are good cards. They make a big difference. And then there's a couple you're like, how is that there? And by the way, I'm seeing it in the chat, so I'm going to address it. Quake. I think Quake is actually not the worst. She's not the best. She's not the worst. I think she is just not played, and there's other options, but she certainly can make things interesting, at least. She has an ability to do something. She's not great, though. 3 costs. Who did you have?
For me, I have 2, but the obvious one for me is going to be Morph. Morph feels like a fun card, but complete and utter unplayable garbage, realistically, at the end of the day.
How dare you?
How dare I? What do you mean, how dare I?
How dare you?
When was the last time you played Morph, like, unironically?
The disrespect from... Oh, I don't think I've ever played him unironically. But he is what he is in the game. I feel like he is just that. He is the random button, and... sometimes he's getting you an Alliath, and the other times he's getting you a freaking Squirrel Girl. Morph just feels like a flavor pick that is gonna. There's no way to change him. I don't know how you change him, because to me, when I think worse, like obviously Punisher, we both could agree. Just like what the hell?
Punisher's the worst. It's not even worth talking about Punisher. Like I'm so out of breath for this.
What are we doing? Like I see a variant, the new one that came out, and I got this in cash, guys. I did not buy it, and I'm just like. Legit useless. Like I just look at it, but that's it. And we know he's bad, but maybe one day he gets better. But outside of Punisher, dude, I think Groot is just terrible too. I don't like Groot, man.
That's a hot take. Saying I don't like Groot is such a weird thing to say, by the way. Taken out of context, it's such an awful thing.
It is.
I've played Groot before, man. I've played Groot in Surfer. Like there's been moments where Groot's playable. He is not great. And he did get changed, and like it kind of was a buff. His ceiling was lowered and his floor was risen, one might say. But yeah, Groot feels bad. He doesn't make Surfer lists, and he doesn't make any lists, actually. Yeah, okay, I can see that. There's still worse, though. I still have a worse card.
Who?
Kingpin. Like,
dude,
how do you play Kingpin?
Doesn't Kingpin have like a decent... Okay, let me ask you this. Kingpin or Captain America? Who would you rather have on a 12 deck?
Cap all day. Give me Cap every day.
Right, because you get something. Like you can form something. Okay, all right. Kingpin to me is, yeah, dude. He is pretty awful. I have a Groot stuffed animal, and my wife wanted me to show it here. So no, Kingpin. At least you have the decks that work, with him. But yeah, he's pretty bad too. I don't know.
Yeah, Kingpin's awful. I think I do have 2 suggestions though, both for Morph and Kingpin. For Morph, what if it targets the leftmost card like we've been seeing in like Spider-Ham and stuff? Maybe it's more likely to hit a 6 cost, an Alliath or whatever, right? A Death or a Null. That could be interesting.
Okay.
And then with Kingpin, why not just on turn 3 or 4, make it a 4 cost, 4/4 or whatever, or 4/5, and have it change the location it's played on to Fisk Tower?
I like the
Is
Fisk
that really
Tower
that
thing.
bad?
I like the Fisk Tower thing because then you get another card that's a 3 cost, like Storm and Magic, that can have location. Because at least there's that for him.
Yeah, and it takes him off of all these like Silky Smooth style decks that are dominating the meta at these high win rates without nerfing any of those cards.
He's always the worst card in his deck. I think that's the problem. Like, you're always trying to do something. Like, he needs one other card that works with him. Like, you now have 2 things that kind of can go together as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, I like the Fisk Tower change. They changed them once in beta too, like forever ago. But yes, not great. 4 cost, dude. Did you have a tougher time?
Yeah, 4 costs, I had a tougher time. I definitely had a tougher time with 4 costs, but I do have one that I want to talk about with a suggested change. And it might not even be the worst, but I'm going to say Jessica Jones. I want to talk about Jessica Jones for a second, because JJ breaks my heart. JJ's not the worst, but it feels like completely unplayable, right? But what I want to say is this. What if we had this, Cozy? What if we remove the if you don't play a card here at the next turn. What if it was just next turn gain +4 power? And you think, Alex, that's too good. Now there's no condition. It still means you can't play it on turn 6, right? It still means you can't play it on turn 6. It's a 4/8. What do you think about that? Because JJC's literally almost zero play outside of pool 1.
I'm gonna be honest. I like Jessica Jones as a card. Like, I think that I get it. She works in the niches she works in, right? Like, player after storm, you get there's easier ways to get 4/8. I think not playing there is not that big of a deal, but it does limit her design a bit more. Her problem is just if anyone were to say, does power creep exist? Jessica Jones in the 4-cost slot is the only answer I have to that, but I still think she's fine. What about a 3-cost card that goes to a 3/7? She's a 3/3, goes to 3/7.
Yeah, I could feel that. But for me, it's the card that feels the worst right now is Jessica Jones. It's just I feel the worst for Jessica Jones because I love the card. I love the flavor. I love the character, and this card just being done dirty.
Well, 4-cost for me, dude. Obviously, we could both say strong guy. He's literally the least popular card in the game. He's just terrible. When we were doing the live stream the other day, I brought up my first video, and he's a 2-cost in there. And I'm like, that's awesome. I missed the 2-cost, strong guy days, and I think that's how you kind of make him a bit better. Outside of him, do these cards have to exist for early game? I get it. And the more I guess you can make him more expired to 29. At least they're 4/6s. What do you feel about Warpath? He's got the couple of decks that are 40% win rates.
Warpath was part of the package that got Destroyer nerfed. If you think about that, remember that Destroyer when it was 1 extra power, apparently 1 power nerf from Destroyer killed the card. But Warpath was part of the ongoing Destroyer list with Spectrum, right? And it was good there. But when that deck died, this card has no place anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to go completely. So yeah, it's pretty much dead, and I can see it getting buffed for sure.
So yeah, Warpath, Namor. It's funny because the 4-cost, there's the ones you absolutely run. Even freaking Crossbones is making his way in. Atuma has his deck he works in. Sentry has his deck. 2099. Glenn Jones still has this secret about this card that it's good, and Glenn, dude, I don't know. Glenn, I don't know what deck it is, but we'll have to see. But other than that, yeah, I mean, there's cards like Omega, ones that we wanted boost up a bit, but really it's strong guy that stands out the most. I think Namor is complete just a doo-doo. Not a good card. That's the nicest way to say it. So 4-cost. What about 5? This is, I think, the most obvious to me.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it's Ronin, right? There's no other option other than Ronin, correct?
If you look at all the 5-cost cards, there's honestly only 2 cards that suck. The rest are playable, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't. For the record, I think Kang is still not great for Marvel Snap and still not a great card, and maybe playable in a competitive circumstance, but for the average player on ladder, it's terrible. I mean, for me, it's Ronin. It just does not compete at all with Devil Dinosaur. It doesn't feel playable. There's these dump and bounce decks everywhere. Everyone's able to dump their hand. This card sucks. It's horrible.
It just needs a redesign. In general, it just needs some type of redesign. I think if you look at all the 5-cost cards, he doesn't even have good variants too, dude. I mean, they're okay. They're fine. I brought up Hips, but Ronin is so awkwardly placed if you look at any of these. All of these offer something to the decks that they're in, right? Taskmaster, White Tiger, Blue Marvel. White Tiger got a buff before Ronin did. Color me surprised, right? You get to Ronin, and it's an obvious standout garbage card. Claw has used. Lady Deathstrike, we know now, is working really well. Sarah, Nimrod, Stature. Black Bolt is interesting. I feel like he needs to go back to 5/8 too.
I can't believe Black Bolt took a stray and went down to 5/7. And Black Bolt got nerfed as Stature got nerfed too. They got nerfed in the same time, which kind of blew my mind. I can see Stature remaining nerfed and Black Bolt coming back to a 5/8. I agree. But still, that shell's not that bad. That's still running a 56, 57% win rate. The Black Bolt Stature decks still don't do that bad. They're just not popular.
Yeah, but there's just not... What's so crazy, if you look at 5-cost, though, as we go through legit all of them, there's not a bad card here, outside of Ronin being the top of the list, Kang in there as well, but I think Black Bolt could stand too. So, interesting. That's where we ended up in 6-cost. I think this was the most interesting to me.
It was for me too, because I actually think that these are pretty balanced, and some of them aren't as exciting as I'd like, but there are 2 in my mind that stand out as being kind of more stinky than the rest. And Would I venture to say that Helicarrier might have made your list, Cozy?
Yeah, so Helicarrier was the one. Like, there are ones that are bad in the meta right now, right? Like, She-Hulk is like, damn, like, it's hard to fit her in with Mobius. And you got cards that maybe Spectrum could get a little sexier. Helicarrier is one of those cards, man, that, like, what the hell? Like, what are we doing? Hela's the best she's ever been, and this card still would never want to see light ever in there. Heck, Nick Fury is so much better in that instance for getting more cards that are high cost and you can get rid of. You can't go above 10 power. I think 10 power is fine. What do you do with the ability?
I don't know. I tried to make a Helicarrier Devil Dinosaur discard deck once, and it performed just like you think it would.
It sounds like it. That's a home-cooked meal for sure. Do you add more cards? Do you make them 4, 5, 6 costs? Do you, like, what do you do?
Man, I don't even know. I think you just torched the whole thing. You delete it from the game.
Dude, this card's been out literally for almost a year, and I think this is obviously the worst 6 cost cards. And we can both agree.
I think Dexter's the only one that plays it.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm not even convinced, and just not a bit. You know, he's got to stick to the love of the Helicarrier, no matter how bad it is, right? Like, I would do the same for Arrow. I get it. I get the love. Although, you know, Arrow, Helicarrier, no contest. Do you have another 6 cost you would throw up?
I have one more, but I'm wondering if you picked the same one. Because for me, it has to be Giganto, right? That feels awkward as hell. Like, the other ones all have roles to play. And Giganto makes itself in a couple decks, but you never play Giganto as Giganto. Even though I think if you go back to, like, the first 5 episodes of the Snapchat, I'm pretty sure I was like, Giganto surprise card, let's go, right? And then realistically, it's like, this card is complete trash.
Yeah, dude, I like, even when I try to convince myself, like, oh, I can make a deck that's designed to win the left lane, like, you don't know what the hell is going to happen. If they proc X, it's like, you're done. Like, you know, there's no meta that he will exist, but I get why he exists. It's for the Tribunal Hela madness decks, and that's kind of it. That's kind of it. I don't know if he'll ever change, but I do agree he's kind of towards the bottom there. So overall, you know, I thought 6 cost was kind of not easier because of Helicarrier, but definitely they've done pretty good that there's only a handful, maybe like, what, 15? 10? How many cards would you say just suck?
Yeah, probably like 10 cards are absolute garbage. Maybe 15 cards are garbage, yeah. And like, I still would like to see, like, for instance, Chat called out Quake. I still think Quake should, like, have a reliable effect where, you know, like, this right location goes left and this left one goes mid. And then that's so, like, you're able to, like, you know, predictively move it around, but that would already be a huge buff. But, you know, I can't ask for too much.
So the worst card, I'm going to ask the chat this, but I also want to talk to you. Worst card in Snap right now. It's the worst. Like, this is it. What is it?
That's Agatha, if you got to take it all together. But
come on.
In terms of win rate, it has to be Agatha, right?
No, just in, like, pure ability and purposeful in the game.
Carnage. Cozy's just so upset. He doesn't know how to respond.
Elephants suck. Elephants, it's the elephant tank all over. Is it?
It has to be Punisher, right, Cozy?
People are saying Angel. I'm seeing a lot of Angel. I'm seeing a lot of Strong Guy. Baron. Yeah. I'm trying to think who I would play, like, as no shot in my deck. It's probably Baron. Or Angel.
Baron's probably, you're right, with the Triple M, Baron's probably completely unplayable. Like, if you put that in your deck, you are legitimately just trying to feed cubes. Like, it has to have a negative cube rate at this point. No one's even playing it. What are we talking about?
There's a day, like, yeah, there's a day that I'll be crazy and be like, I'm gonna make Strong Guy work today, you know, and it's happened before, but, like, there's no day where I'm like, Baron is it. This is how I'm gonna, this is my next thumbnail as Baron Mordo. Can you imagine? That's gonna be next April Fool's video.
Maybe that's why I saw the Baron Funko Pop at the dollar store for clearance.
You know that no one. Yeah, I can't see that one flying off the shelves. Mom, I want. Forget Captain America and Tony. I want Baron Mordo, my favorite Doctor Strange appearance character, and then kind of walks away. Anyway, well, those are the 2 subjects over on your side, and that means we have ourselves the Snapchat mailbag. Now, Alex, we've kind of talked about bringing a mailbag to the Snapchat. Kind of every question is open under the sun, whether it's directed to us, to Snap, a thought on any topic that you guys want to talk about. That's all going to be fair game, and we're going to go into a nice little Q&A. We'll throw it up here on the screen. Right now, what is your favorite card in Marvel Snap? This would be an easy, short answer.
For me, it's Jeff the Shark. Jeff the Baby Land Shark for me is my favorite card. It can be in any deck. It performs wonderfully. It just plays well. It's been by far my favorite purchase since the launch of the card itself.
I think, fun-wise, I love Deadpool a lot, but I gotta say, Thanos might take it. I think I just, like, as a character, as a card, I love Thanos, love building around him, so I think he's probably an easy answer for me. Loki was close, and then he became a problem, right? So that would be mine. Alex, do you have a question you want to pull out here? We're getting a good amount of them.
Yeah, what would you guys believe could be added to collectors' reserves to make them better?
Okay, yeah. At the beginning of the show, I said I think if they brought in emotes, if they brought in new card borders or ways of like cosmetics in that way, I think the return of gold should happen in some degree. Like, allow there to be. There's nothing better than for free to play to be able to slowly accumulate, get resources to be able to get something over time. And I think we do need to see more gold, kind of back into those. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. The lack of gold in collector's reserves feels weird, especially since it's still in like the 50 plus season pass rewards. Like getting 50 gold from the season pass rewards, like why wouldn't this be in the collector's track? Like that doesn't make sense, right? They of course have added the weekend missions, which they've improved greatly too. But for me, I think it's just everything around it. Like I think you need more collector's tokens. I think you need more credits. I think you need to get rid of the I personally don't like the titles and stuff. It feels like filler. The collection track already has so much filler in it. You're getting a collector's reserve every 12 levels. We just need better rewards. Put the titles every 50 levels or something. Make it on the track. Don't put it in the reserves. Get crap out of the reserves.
Yep. Okay. I like it. Another great question. This one was interesting, and I'm going to add to the question. Essentially, they're talking about data mines and how we already know what's coming out in December. Do you think it would be better to go into a month and have no idea what's coming out that month? Like, data mines they have a weighted patch. They've talked about doing this too. Or do you think it creates necessary hype and it's great for planning, spotlights and all that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, what if we had the spotlights but we didn't know the new cards? I think it could be interesting.
There's like a double-sided sword to this. First I'll say is that I think that the data leaks and the data mines are necessary based on how the system works right now. We don't get enough resources to be able to spend our tokens on a whim. So I think it's intelligent to actually look ahead in the future to figure out what's of value and what's not, what you should be saving for and what you shouldn't. However, Second Dinner's not saying anything. Like, if you think about all the data mines and all the information about like spotlights that are coming, cards that are coming out in the future, that's coming on the shoulders of like people like us. Second Dinner was supposed to be telling us in advance through official statements, like, this is what the month looks like for the next month for Spotlight Caches. Look, they're actually just letting us do that work. They're not doing any of the official communication they were supposed to. So they're just, as much as they might not like the leaks, they're relying on the leaks as opposed to actually giving us any information whatsoever. So now the leaks are completely necessary. But the other side of it is I don't like the leaks either, because it takes a lot of PR out of Second Dinner's hands, because I think Second Dinner would do a great job. Like, there would be way more hype if you allowed Ben Brode and the team with their cool videos to actually announce the new cards and new spotlights and that would be so much better than just some JPEG on some random website. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100% agree. I think it's it's interesting because they're close to communication. They do a good job in some efforts. And there's some, like, I love that they're doing the creator video once it comes up, I think, after it or whatever. I haven't had one up there yet, though. But I think that aspect is really cool. But you're right. They kind of lean on, they could definitely create a bit more excitement if, like, those trailers are so cool. It's so cool. If they could do kind of a mini showcase of Goliath or whatever it might be, I agree. That'd be definitely pretty sick. What is your favorite way to finish a game? Turn 6. If there is one way, that's an interesting. What'd you say?
Miss Marvel thumbs up's the best way to finish a game.
You toxic SOB. Just drop in the chat now. That's a tough one, right? Like, what is your favorite way to finish off a game? Like, most cheeky way?
Yeah, I mean, the most cheeky way is like Orca. Like, honestly, Orca, because that feels just as good as Galactus without the toxicity. Dropping an Orca in a lane where they're up by like 14. It's just so funny to me.
Okay,
man.
I
love Orca.
I think anything with like surprise lane disruption, like Magneto's really fun. Juggernaut, those kind of cards. Arrow, all those are nuts. So,
do you or Cozy have a variant type for a card that you really want to see? For example, a Marvel zombie for a card, or an artist rendition of a card you like.
Ooh, can I tell you the truth? I honestly, because I think the MCU is so important to Marvel, the actors' rights, I don't even have to. I don't know what that looks like, but we've gotten a couple MCU variants, and I think it'd be awesome to see a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool or like a Tony Stark in the likeness of Robert Downey Jr., which the Halloween one is very close. You know what I mean? Like an official MCU variant, that would probably be my answer.
Yeah, I mean, more of the signed ones like we have with the Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. How like unbelievable would that be?
Yep.
Like, oh man, that card just does not see play, but like that signed autograph style card with an MCU variant would be absolutely chef's kiss. That's what a mythic variant should be. That's what a mythic variant is, in my opinion, right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Underrated Marvel Snap creator. What's a creator you want to shout out right now that you've seen their stuff? I don't get a lot of time to watch because I'm dying. But what's a creator? I got one for you, but what do you got?
Yeah, for me, I think Drew Barry does a lot of
That's
good work.
what I was gonna say, man. I thought Drew Barry.
Yeah, I think Drew Barry does some good work. I'd like to see Drew Barry get some love, and Chat I think is a big fan of Drew Barry as well. There's so many amazing creators. I mean, like from the streaming side, obviously like Ordinary Harry does fantastic streams. Eggs is really engaging. There's so many different creators, right? Then you have like the article writers, like Guest Gaming does a lot of the articles and stuff like that, which is great to see. But like generally speaking, like the community is insane, right? Like it's actually such a talented creator community that like everywhere you look, there's just nothing but talent.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, I was gonna. Drew Barry is the one that stood out to me for sure. That I think is doing great stuff. But other than Snap, Alex, what are some hobbies that you're interested in besides going to Costco?
You just took my only hobby. You just answered my own question. That's all I do. I basically make content, get stressed out, walk around Costco for a bit, buy beef jerky, come home. That's like literally what I do, right? And one of my things that I really like to do, and this is something a lot of people won't know, I'm actually a writer. And most recently, I work with a friend who's a director in Los Angeles, and one of the projects we've worked on, because anyways, it like just in the last week, it got like 6 or 7 million views. It just completely blew up on YouTube. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see something that I wrote end up getting 7 million views on YouTube there. And on a completely unrelated channel. It's like a comedy channel.
No way, dude.
It's kind of cool to see. Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty neat to see that kind of stuff happen.
As far as a hobby, I love picking up new things and learning it and mastering it and then moving to something. I would say surfing is huge for me. I think it's like a great way to reset. Really, just a cool. I remember the first time I told you I surfed. I was saying that for like a couple weeks, and then one day we were on a call, and you're like, "Wait, you're like actually going out there and surfing the wave?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. There's something so peaceful about that." Yeah, outside of that, I mean, boating too. Just being on the water is big for me. It's a good way that I can clear my kind of my head, but. Dude, Snap is 16 hours a day for me, man, and then the rest is with family. So it's hard to right now to squeeze time for a ton of different hobbies. That's for sure. Do you have a favorite artist in Snap right now?
It would have to be Artgerm. It has to be Artgerm for me. I'm sorry. Like Artgerm is probably my favorite. There's just every single variant is absolutely beautiful. Kim is also very good. I don't know how to say their last name. Is it
Jacinto?
Jacinto, is that it? Yeah. So Kim
probably.
Jacinto is obviously fantastic as well. The Kitty Pryde, like I care less about Nico next week. I want that Kitty Pryde cover art variant so much. That's like what I'm rolling for. Okay. But for me, the actual answer is Artgerm. I can't get enough of Artgerm's variants.
What do you think is the most liked artist? Like if like they were polled on it, if the people were polled, because for me, like I love Max Gregg. I think everything that Max Gregg does is really well done. I just like his style. It just kind of vibes with my style. Ryan also does all of her work is incredible. The watercolor that she does is very well done too. So I would say them, but yeah, probably Artgerm is what most people would say. Maybe Dan Hip.
You know what? I think Dan Hip could win the popularity vote just because Dan Hip's producing so much that's actually so good. There's a couple whiffs in there, like the Silver Surfer, maybe not the best, but like my favorite Hip is like the Beast, for instance. The Beast is so good. The Carnage and Venom are so good. They actually kind of like look really good together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like Dan Hip has so many fire. Oh, the Helicarrier. Like talk about a brutal card with one of the best variants in the game, right? So it's like, yeah, I could see Dan Hip winning that vote. He
definitely was like in person, just exactly what you expect, and like I don't know, he was great. He was a very lovely person, and he's big. Alex. Do we have, if you had one superpower, what would you like it to be and why?
I would like to fly. I think flying would be fun. But if I had to go a little further than that, Do you know, like on Dragon Ball Z, do you remember instant teleportation by Goku, where you just go like this and you just like teleport somewhere?
Yeah, dude.
Like you'd be like, I'm going to Mars, and he just goes to Mars. That seems pretty awesome.
That seems pretty OP. Like you're useless if like Thanos comes. Like what do you do? You're like, I can get the hell out of here. That's it.
I can peace out. Is exactly
I can
what
peace
I can do.
out to Costco anytime I want to. Let's face it, dude. You could go to like friggin' like Thailand, but you'd be like, boom, Costco, pizza aisle, boom. You wouldn't use it, right? I feel like maybe. I don't know what mine would be. Probably that. That sounds pretty cool.
Oh, come on. You can't just steal mine now. This is got to be something you'd like.
Super speed is always legit. Flying is always like the one you have to say. I would say super speed is probably the one I would go with. I don't know. Professor X has pretty badass powers too. You know, the mind reading and telekinesis and all that stuff. That's kind of cool. That'd probably be mine. I would say invisibility, and then people are like, why? That seems fun though.
So what archetype would you like to see added to the game? So is there an archetype from other card games that you would like to see added to Marvel Snap?
Man, that's tough. Yeah, I feel like they've done pretty well with it. I would say, I think it'd be cool to add like like Captain America and his shield. I think we've talked about this before. Like that aspect to me is really cool. There's a lot of iconic items and weapons and things within Marvel. And to be able to power up a card and bring a buff to a card without directly bringing it sounds very interesting on how Snap works as a whole. Like
yeah, and I think we've talked about in the past about how like there's no like tri bonuses. The idea of like, you know, like in Hearthstone you can get like buff a card for as many Murlocs as you have on the board or stuff like that. So you could have like an Avenger archetype or tri where it's like you get each Avenger gets +1 for each Avenger you have on the field or whatever. Or, you know, I think that could be interesting, but maybe that's a whole separate game mode. Like I don't know how you actually balance that or whatever, but that type of thing, those like kind of aura style buffs don't really exist in Snap, which could be interesting.
Alex, how do we go about home brewing decks, right? So when you're doing a deck, how do you go about brewing it up, making one? That's a great question, chat there. And we're going to continue to look for questions as you guys ask them. But yeah, that's a good question. How do you do that?
I mean, for me, it usually starts with like the linchpin card. What is the card? What is the closer? What is the winning line? That's usually where I start. It's called like backwards design. Start with the victory condition, then build towards it. And so like that's how I approach it, right? Like if I think to myself, okay, like Ebony Blade, for instance, and the Black Knight, I want to make Ebony Blade completely impossible to deal with for my opponent. So how do I do that? Well, I discard the Infinite. Well, if I discard the Infinite, how do I actually set up a winning condition with that? Well, I have Ghost Rider. I can use Shuri. And like that's kind of how I work. What's the end result? And how do I get there? So backwards design. Start at the desired result and then work backwards to build a deck that enables that desired result consistently.
Yeah, mine's all synergy designed, right? So yeah, like Snap has a lot of packages. Like it was funny that you look at things and you're like, well, this was a move deck, and it's like that's not a move deck anymore. It has Angela, Nightcrawler. That's right now. That's just a package. It's a great way to start something. So you can look at your packages, but you go with also synergy and the huge synergy you want. That you know, it's a 12 card deck, but you know that these 4 cards they have to be together. You have to. You have such a better chance if you run X card with X card, right? And building that core synergy, and then you have your package, and then your fillables. That's kind of how I work with most of my deck building, and I obsess with it. I do way too much of it. I build my created decks. I have a thing with all my created decks, and I'm over 1,000 by far. It's my favorite part of Snap, massively at that.
If you were a card in Snap, Cozy, what artist would you want to draw you?
Ooh, I don't know who would. That's a great question. Whoever asked that, because I'm like, I like Max Grick, but I don't know if I want his style, and I don't want Art Germ. I don't need like a.
Yeah, no, Art Germ can't cover this. Like this is like it's just basically just he's going to draw like Muffin Man.
I need if he wants to add like a 20 pack to me. Honestly, dude, I think Dan Hip would be sweet. Or Ryan Gonzalez actually probably lines up with my style the most. I like bright, vibrant crap, and I think that like just stuff that pops, and all of her stuff pops, like the Gambit and the Rogue. Yeah, probably her.
I lean towards Dan Hip. So I think Dan Hip could make me look good. I mean, that's probably the best I'll ever look, honestly. I think I agree with the Archer. Archer, no, thank you. That's not gonna work for me, you know. But if I had to lay on a couch and get drawn like, you know, like Titanic style there.
Lay on-
I'd go with the Dan hip probably. Yeah.
That'd be quite the hip variant I laid over Alex. I like it. Someone asked us too real quick. What is our dude, this is a great question. Our turnaround time on testing a deck, right? Deck creation, and then finally like filming and then publishing to YouTube.
Oh man, that's so hard to say. I have a deck that I've been working on for like 3 weeks. I've not really shown anyone to release because I'm not sure if it's good yet, and I'm still refining it and stuff like that in my spare time. Otherwise, like if it's something that I know is like quickly emerging in the meta, and I know it's slapping, and like the data does support that the deck is good, then I'm more willing to release it earlier. If it's a full out brew, I take much more time with it.
Yeah, I would say for me, it depends on what the accomplishment is. Like if my goal is to test the deck in the first 24 hours, like a new card, it's 24 hours, right? Typically, I'm not the first creator to get something out. I like to get things out in the morning. That way I have like the whole time to really get it through. And then if it sucks, I just don't even do it. And then with other guides, it just depends. Usually I've won a ton with a deck before. I don't think I'll ever release a deck that just has flat out sucked for myself. But it just, yeah, it's different per deck without question.
I think that pretty much brings us to our close, Cozy.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Well, guys, this was definitely a treat. A lot of fun. We talked about a wealth of subjects, and if you're watching live, you're going to see this on YouTube, or if you're watching now live, great. Good to have you here. Another great Monday. Next week is officially episode 52. 1 year of the Snapchat. We have a special guest coming on, so excited about that as well, man, and looking forward to year 2. Guys, thank you so much for coming to this first live edition of the Snapchat, and as always, guys, happy snapping.